How was Halle Berry key to getting the dogs to perform in John Wick 3? Who taught Keanu Reeves how to slide drift in a car while shooting a gun? And which film inspired the famous motorbike scene? Hi, I'm Dylan. Let's uncover the Baba Yaga's secrets. The attack dogs. Anyone who's ever worked with pups will tell you that they can be divas. They don't always do what you tell them to do on a movie set. Yet in John Wick Part 3, Sophia's dogs delivered one of the best action scenes in the entire franchise as they team up with their owner and John Wick to take out the bad guys. In order to bring this ambitious scene to life, 5 Belgian Malinois underwent extensive training where they needed to treat their attacks like playtime. Yeah, I know, it didn't always look like they were playing. The dogs had to chase after green canvas straps that were placed on the stunt performers. Fortunately, the group was already quite comfortable and familiar with the dogs, so the same stunt performers were used repeatedly in the scene. While it's normally the dog trainers who shout commands to the dogs on set, the director's choice of using wider angles and long takes wouldn't allow for this. So, actress Halle Berry was the one giving out the orders. She actually spent time in pre-production learning how to train dogs and getting close to the pooches.
Now, these 2 Belgian Malinois in reality are played by 5 different dogs.
Well, that isn't the worst way to spend your time. I'd hang out with dogs any day of the week for free. The crazy fall. In Parabellum, John Wick is really put through the ringer. At one point, he's shot on the roof of the Continental and falls off the building, hitting everything on the way to the ground. Ouch! It looks particularly painful, but it was made possible through a combination of stunt work, special effects, and visual effects. Explaining the scene to befores and afters, production visual effects supervisor Rob Nederhorst said the following. The stunt team initially wanted to do the whole thing fully in camera, but at some point they realized that for the height Chad wanted, it was going to be too high to do safely. So what they did was they filmed the fall in sequences and stitched it together via visual effects in the end. A setup with a blue screen was put together to enable Keanu's stunt double, Jackson Speedell, to fall at a safe height. Then rubberized railings and other parts were created to allow Jackson to hit them and make them bend just a little for authenticity. However, this didn't stop Jackson from landing harder than expected and even having the crew worried for a second. Fortunately, he was fine and didn't require any medical treatment in the end. Still, it sounds like there was the possibility that this stunt could have ended a whole lot worse. Jackson was undoubtedly the real hero here. The Nightclub Fight. Think of the one scene that best describes the John Wick series. Undoubtedly, the first one that comes to mind is the Nightclub Fight. It isn't just because the cinematography is gorgeous, but also due to how intense the action is. Well, on the first John Wick movie, the budget wasn't as high as the subsequent movies, so time was of the essence. This meant that Keanu had to learn all the stunts and choreography for this scene on the actual day it was filmed. To top it all, it's the longest and most complicated sequence in the movie, so there are a lot of moving parts and beats to take into consideration here. Get this though, he didn't just memorize all the fighting moves, but also the reloading of his weapon that takes place. Phew, I struggle to remember just what's on the shopping list. More impressively, Keanu pulled this off while he struggled with the flu and a fever of 104 degrees Fahrenheit. It's mind-blowing to consider how everyone actually managed to make this scene come to life and look so realistic. Is it your favorite scene in the entire franchise? Because it might just be mine. The car battle. Seeing what was pulled off in the first John Wick movie, you'd expect that the directors got everything they wanted and then some. Well, that wasn't the case. In fact, they suffered the same sort of budget limitations that most directors experience on every Hollywood production. So, they had to get creative in some parts. Towards the end of the film, John utilizes his car to take down the villains. However, the original plan was to have an elaborate car chase scene through the streets. Speaking to the New York Times, co-director Chad Stahelski said, "We were doing our calculations and we were 10 cars short of doing the sequence we wanted. Rather than kung fu, we did car fu, keeping Keanu in the car and whatever comes at him, he hits." Incredibly, Keanu actually did a fair amount of the driving in this intricate scene. Taking a stunt driving crash course, he learned from stuntman Jeremy Fry, who taught him how to slide drift with one hand while shooting out of the window. Even the biggest cynic or doubter needs to admit that that's seriously impressive. I mean, I can't even drive while taking a sip out of my soda. Breaking glass. Parabellum's big fight scene set up quite the visual spectacle as John fought the bad guys in a glass office, smashing them around and breaking a bunch of glass that looks like a real mess to clean up. The secret behind this scene is that it used a mixture of real glass, digital effects, and clever stunt work. Originally, the glass cabinets were constructed and set to explode thanks to special effects charges on the bottom. But on the first take, only one cabinet exploded. The timing was off and it created a domino effect with the other cabinets. As a result, the team had to get creative, keeping in mind that real glass can also be a hazard to performers. Chatting to befores and afters, Rob Netterhorst said, "In the end, there's two moments in the office building with real glass. One, there's a cabinet on the lower level where Wick kinda comes back in the camera, and then there's another one where he kicks a henchman into a cabinet that then explodes. The rest of it is all digital glass." Incredibly, the effects team made the CG glass look real, and the audience was none the wiser. Seriously, did you ever think that the glass was CGI? I'm flabbergasted by this revelation. The Library Brawl. If the pen is mightier than the sword, then a book is certainly more powerful than a Smith & Wesson. Undoubtedly, one of the most inventive action scenes in the John Wick series takes place in Chapter 3, as John battles the assassin Ernest as portrayed by NBA star Boban Marjanovic in the library. Director Chad Stahelski is a huge fan of the New York Public Library and was determined to film a scene in the tightest of spaces, giving it a more claustrophobic vibe. But he didn't want John to go up against a similarly sized opponent, so he decided to find the biggest opponent possible for the hero to brawl. The only problem was the filmmakers couldn't find a stunt double for the 7-foot-plus basketball player, so he had to spend 2 weeks training to do his own performance. Still, the filmmakers took precautions and had Jackson Spidell, Keanu's stunt double, take a size 20 kick from Boban. At first, the NBA star kicked him mildly, but the crew insisted that he hit Jackson harder. Well, when you see the stunt double fly out of the screen, that was entirely real. Sheesh. Of course, the fight ends when John uses a book to break Ernest's jaw, but this was done via digital effects. The effects team did a few iterations of his broken jaw, even providing a gory version that looked like it was out of a horror film. Ultimately, they decided this was a John Wick movie and not Saw, so they took a safer option. The Motorbike Chase. Remember the bike chase scene in John Wick Chapter 3? Of course, how could you forget about it? Not only was this a tribute to the South Korean film The Villainous.
One of the things that I saw a picture called Villainous, and it turned out that Chad had seen it.
Villainous was a great film, great action movie, great Asian cinema. And they had a great motorcycle sequence in it.
As confirmed by both Keanu and the director, but it was also one of the most difficult sequences to film. Naturally, it would have been far too dangerous to film the bikes while moving through the streets and flipping through the air, so this scene ended up being a combination of green screen and locked vehicles on moving platforms, along with the cameraman hopping between the actors to get the perfect shot. Production visual effects supervisor Rob Netterhorst said it was rehearsed in a warehouse 4 times before it was actually photographed. Adding to the realism, the filmmakers actually measured the distance between lanes at the actual Verrazano Bridge and modified the stunt. Keanu, along with the stunt writers, did most of the work here, while other crew members were dressed in green to control the bikes and platforms. Peeling back the layers, this is simply next-level preparation. The amount of work that went into this stunt deserves a round of applause, wouldn't you agree? John vs. Cassian. The second John Wick film is memorable for a variety of reasons. However, one of its best scenes is the skirmish between John and Cassian, played by rapper Common. It's quite the treat to see the two men take their fight to the streets of Rome and engage in close-quarter combat. Naturally, Keanu is already known for doing most of his stunts in the movie, but Common followed suit here as well. Chatting to the New York Times, director Chad Stahelski confirmed the following. "We put Common through firearm training and martial arts training. For 3 months, he just lived the life of a stunt performer." Inspired by John Woo films like Hard Boiled and The Killer, the two of them brutally brawled in between the parked cars before rolling down a staircase in what looked like a painful sequence. For this part of the scene, though, the director had the actor's stunt doubles perform the role. However, to get this right, the stuntmen would need to get it right on the first try. Otherwise, it would be agonizing to repeat multiple times, and they did exactly that. They completed all the levels of the fall without a break. Then they still needed to go through a window afterwards. Sheesh. Honestly, stunt performers are really the unsung heroes of the movie biz. Across 3 films, we've seen some of the most incredible and insane stunt scenes that have left the audience's jaws on the floor. With a 4th movie on the way, you just know that the filmmakers will be out to top everything that's come before it. And that's something that'll be music to the ears of John Wick fans everywhere. But now it's time to hear from you. Were you surprised to hear that Keanu actually performed his driving stunts? And how impressed were you by the realism of the motorbike scene? Thanks for watching, and don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. And while you're at it, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for some more awesome videos.